I am Dr. PecherChuByrd, and I am presenting research results from a research study with my colleagues, Devin Pecher and Zhongchen Chu, on a method for transforming a question into a problem for developing research questions. Finding significance of a problem is hard, even for experienced researchers. It is important that students understand the significance of identifying the implications of their research. The significance of this work is in helping students to identify a topic, transform a topic to questions, and utilize those questions to identify the significance to the topic to inform a sound research statement. This work will help students to build skills in developing strong research questions that inform a practice that is required not only in STEM, but also in non-STEM education. This work helps students to pose questions and ask questions that will strengthen their critical thinking skills in the practice of engineering and computer science. The purpose of this research is to assess students' understanding of the research problem they pose to address. The goal is to train students to generate their own effective and relative critical thinking skills. The research aims associated with this research are to introduce an activity worksheet approach for transforming questions to a problem for developing research questions, to assess students' perception of the usability of the activity worksheet method in helping to identify practical and conceptual aspects of the research question. The research question driving this research is, how do students perceive the usability of the activity worksheet method for developing problem statements? The worksheet was given as part of a 16-week course with a lecture lab format. The learning objectives for the course is to introduce the data visualization process. Students are required to demonstrate their proficiency in applying the data visualization process by presenting results from a research topic of their choosing with data and visualizations to support their conclusions. Undergraduates enrolled in an introductory data visualization course at Purdue University implemented the worksheet method in the fall of 2019. Two sections of the same course utilized the worksheets. There was little to no experience among undergraduates in research. The majority of participants or students were sophomores. 76% of the students enrolled in the course were sophomores. The goal of the worksheet is to identify the significance of a research topic and generate research problem statements to drive the subsequent research. Students will transition from a broad topic to a specific statement. Students will also answer specific questions about their topic. The data collected for this research consisted of the questions to a problem activity worksheet, as well as students' self-assessment of the usability of the activity worksheet. Students were given 1 week to complete the worksheet and self-assessment. A 5-point Likert scale is used to assess students' perception of the usability of the activity worksheet. The activity worksheet consisted of several sections. The first section asked students to identify the significance of their topic by completing a number of sentences. The sentences are intended to help students gain a better idea of what they're studying and provide insight on what they need to find out in order to address the problem that they are posing. The second question asked students to determine if their problem is practical or if it is a conceptual problem by answering a few questions. The questions are intended to provide insight as to what a practical problem is. For example, what action do you want your reader to take versus what a conceptual problem is. For example, what should the reader think? The third question asks students to think about the significance of the research that they are posing. A 5-point Likert scale was used to indicate students' level of agreement with the following statements as part of the usability survey feedback. The worksheet helped me to identify the topic as a practical or conceptual problem. The worksheet helped me to understand what I want the reader to do. The worksheet helped me to understand what I want readers to think about the topic after reviewing the project deliverables. Only the student self-assessment data for the usability of the worksheets are analyzed. Mean values are used as the basic descriptive statistical indicator for each statement in the survey research instrument. T-test calculations are used to compare Likert scores by sections and by questions. Microsoft t-test function was used to calculate p-value using two-tailed distribution for two sample unequal variances. An alpha level of 0.05 was used for all tests to determine statistical significance. The activity worksheet was completed by 41 students, 20 students in Section A and 21 students in Section B. A total of 122 responses were analyzed. 59 responses were analyzed from Section A, where 20 students responded to 3 questions. However, there was 1 student who did not provide a response for Statement 3, decreasing the amount of responses by 1. For Section B, 63 responses were received. 21 students provided 3 responses to 3 questions, resulting in 63 responses. Table 2 shows the mean scores for each section, as well as the overall mean score for the entire worksheet. The mean value for Section A is 3.6, and the mean value for Section B is 3.9. The overall mean value is 3.7. For this research, a mean value of 3.5 or higher is considered to be favorable. The p-value for the overall assessment results of usability is 0.05, which is an indicator that the results are statistically significant. As we look at the combined frequency response count regarding the assessment statements, we see approximately 50% of the responses from Section A were agree, and approximately 60% of the responses from Section B were agreed. We find these results to be favorable and in support of the worksheet. In Table 3, the t-test results for the usability statements by section, we see that Statement 1 has a p-value less than 0.05. P-value of 0.02 suggests the differences between the students' responses for the Statement 1 between sections is statistically significant. The statistical significance suggests the differences between the 2 sections are not due to random variation between the 2 sections. Statement 1 states that the worksheet helped me to identify the topic as a practical or conceptual problem. Analysis of the frequency of responses revealed that Section A responded most favorably to Statement 3, indicating that Section A found the worksheet most helpful in understanding what the student wanted their reader to think about the research topic. Section B responded more favorably to Statements 1 and Statements 2, indicating that Section B found the worksheet most helpful in identifying topics as practical or conceptual problems, and helpful in understanding what the reader should or could do after viewing project deliverables. Although encouraged by outcomes presented here, we acknowledge some obvious limitations. First limitation is the relatively small sample size. The worksheet will be used in future offerings in the same class and other classes where students are required to develop research questions and or develop topic ideas for assignments and projects. The second limitation is the Likert scale data. A response scale with 1 to 5 points tends to consistently average a value of 3, making it impossible to accurately understand respondents' real assessment. An even numbered scale will be used in future implementations of the worksheet. The last limitation is that only the usability of the worksheet was examined. Future studies will examine the worksheets as a data artifact along with students' perception of the worksheet. Our study provided an approach to help students develop and exercise critical thinking skills and to think about the implications and consequences of their decisions. Students' perceptions of the method overall is positive. We are encouraged by the statistically significant findings, which suggests the worksheet helps students to identify their topics as a practical or conceptual problem. The data also suggests that students are not completely confident in determining what they want their reader to do versus what they want their reader to think about their topics. Further refinement of the worksheet is needed to consolidate the present findings with larger sample size from students at various stages of the academic process. For example, graduate students. Also to assess the usability of the worksheets on different domains of knowledge and thinking skills. If completed in earnest and in its entirety, the worksheet becomes a valuable resource for the next stage of the research process, which is identifying appropriate data sources to support subsequent research. This worksheet is part of a 4-part series of worksheets which guide students through identifying topics, taking those topics and transforming them into questions, going from questions to a problem statement, and then ultimately to identifying data sources. Results from 3 of the 4 worksheets are presented in the FIE 2020 conference this year. My colleagues and I would like to acknowledge the Department of Computer Graphics Technology at Purdue University, students enrolled in the Fall 2019 course, and much gratitude to Dr. Mary Sadowski and Dr. Paula Laurent for their recommendations and feedback. Content for the worksheet presented in this work was adapted from the book, The Craft of Research, 4th edition. This concludes our presentation.